Following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Tom Briggle, owner of the Bismarck Bobcats, and kind of a home-and-home weekend over 2 weekends, because you guys were in Watertown last weekend. You're hosting Watertown this weekend, one of the teams that's new to the league. Tom, what did you learn from seeing how they played last week?
Well, we learned to play better than we played on Friday. Is that fair?
No, that's fair.
So we went down there on Friday, and we just didn't certainly bring their A game. I think that team has been struggling, but they've played us hard every game this year, and so it's not like I wouldn't think the boys would go in overconfident, but I think we had only 2 losses up to that point, now 3, and they probably have half a dozen wins or whatever. I'm not sure, but they've played everybody hard, and so we just got with our breezers down, I think, and then of course we bounced back on Saturday, even though the injury bug has hit us really hard, and we can get into that. But even with the players out, we beat them 5-0, and Thomas played great in the net, and the boys, they just responded really well, which is good for sure.
Okay, so split on the road, sweep at home. That's kind of the rule of thumb. You guys have been ahead of that pace. Yeah. When you're talking about a Watertown team, though, and a team that's new to the league, not having the players on a tough inaugural season, a lot of that goes back to coaching, and that really shows where that Watertown program is out of the gate. So you really can't take them lightly. They're not a team that's going to ever quit on their coaching staff and for their fans. So now they're coming to our barn. How important is it to get on them early and stay on them?
Well, it is for sure, and I think the boys will certainly bring their A game on Friday. There's no doubt about that. The teams in terms of matchup, we're highly skilled, as you've seen, and we move the puck like no other, for sure. Past their game's a little different. Their number of guys are 6'12", and while they might not move like our guys do, they're big and strong, so they want to play a physical game. But we're okay with any game. It's good to have those games in the season so that you can learn to adjust as well. But yeah, we're going to come out hard. I allude to, everything's been going so great for us in so many ways, and we've been bit hard though recently with Kim going to World Juniors, and Garrett would hate me having this conversation because I'm not making excuses for him, but we have 4 guys hurt, and so we're down this weekend to we're down to 10 forwards and 5D, so it's going to be that's really thin. For those listening, you would normally have 13 and 7, and so we're a little bashful, so they're going to have to play their best game, and then we got to make sure to keep them hydrated and ready to go for sure. But we're a good club. It's going to be great hockey.
Well, and anybody out there that's a hockey player, any of you young kids that are growing up and love the sport and have aspirations, this is where dry land training comes in. This is where being in skating shape comes in, because tell you what, 17, 18-year-olds that aren't excited about the extra ice time, the conditioning shouldn't be a factor, and being excited and able to get the extra ice time and an extra couple shifts per period really gives good talent an opportunity to showcase itself.
Yeah, it does for sure. The biggest cliche in the history of the world is next man up. Garrett doesn't really believe in that because he thinks every man is up every game, and they are. But to your point, there's going to be some opportunities for some younger players or players that haven't been, let's say, on the regular power play, playing. And, I should allude to, we had a boy turn pro this week, Chase Reed. People have watched him, and we love him, so it's kind of a mixed blessing. But, he's on a track, I think we've talked about it, where we just think he's going to be an NHL draft pick. So he was approached, and and turned pro this week, and so we're not ones to, like, he was our property. That's how it works. But we're not one to stand in the way when you have a player like that, right? And so it's going to be fun to watch his career. He's playing in the OHL, which is part of the CHL, which is a professional league in Canada. So, like I said, we have mixed feelings. We sure loved having him. He's just a superstar. But also, he's chasing a dream, and he's so young. He's not even draft eligible. But we're excited for Chase, and it'll be fun to watch him. And I hope the fans, I'm telling them, if they can, they should follow him because he's going to go a long way.
You talk about the next man up mentality, and Garrett really doesn't prescribe to that because of everybody. But when you're as deep as the Bobcats are, and you don't want to take the injury bug for granted because that can get you in trouble in a hurry, but there is that depth that comes into play when you start having a few key injuries, and that's got to be a luxury for the coaching staff at this point.
Yeah, it is for sure. And, of course, we don't have any holes on our team. Like, all the players are players. The league is so good, and the Bobcats in particular, we're pretty darn good. And so we're okay that way. It just gets to be, tough when you have that sort of numbers. But like you said, they'll have opportunities. They'll be playing hard to win, and they'll be playing, individually, too, to just, show their talent and earn ice in the future as they go. So it's... keep our toes crossed. It's a luxury, certainly, to have that depth. It gives us a chance to continue to win. And then we keep our toes crossed that the injury bug, goes away for the holidays or something so they can heal up for a couple weeks.
Tom, hold that thought. I want to come back because I want to continue over the break and talk a little bit about the longer term and view for the coaching staff going through the rest of this year. We're talking with Tom Briggle, owner of the Bismarck Bobcats. Of course, they're taking on Watertown this weekend, tonight and tomorrow night at the Bismarck VFW rink. So make sure you get out there and support the Bobcats. We are your home of the Bobcats, right here, home and away. You can catch all the games on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 20. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken. We're talking with Tom Briggle, owner of the Bismarck Bobcats, and, of course, Super Talk 1270, the home of the Bobcats, home and away. You can catch all the games right here on Super Talk 1270. Okay, Tom, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with some of the injuries right now, because you got some key injuries, a couple players that are gone. Kim, most notable, now he lost Chase, moving on up in his career. So we're hoping Kim comes back after World Juniors. But
Kim will be back, barring injury. He'll be back. And sorry to kind of interject, but before I forget on Kim, people can watch him. Like, the World Junior stage, it's like January, I think, 2nd through the 8th, and some in the end of December. They can watch him play, and he'll be on the top line of Kazakhstan. I just wanted to get that in there before I forgot. But, yeah, he'll be back. Yeah,
it's going to be fun to watch. We just don't want too many other people watching him too close because we don't want to see him have that opportunity to go up to the next level yet. Well, we do, but I'm being selfish right now.
Like an owner.
Yeah, I'm being a little selfish right now. But we just saw that with Chase. So, we talk about this all the time. It's about the development of the boys going up to that next level. And the cup is nice, but the pride I see in you as an owner and the coaching staff when one of the kids makes it up to the next level in Division I hockey in college, and then whatever that professional track looks like, it's like that's what it's about from an ownership at this level and a coaching at this level. Now, coming back to the coaching, I want to talk a little bit about long term because Garrett's in a really interesting position because we are so deep as a team. Bobcats are very deep, and he doesn't prescribe to the best or next man up all the time. It's like everybody's up. But when you start looking at making the playoff run and a run for a title, having the ability to see what some of those other combinations can do. Because we all know what the individuals can do, but it's how the combination, how the individual players play or sync up or, mesh with, different line mates or different power play combinations. That gives the coaching staff, that gives Garrett an opportunity to go, okay, I can coach, because you can throw your best line out there, but maybe it's not effective against the other team's special teams' best line. Maybe a different combination is going to have a little chink in there. That brings a whole different strategy to coaching, and this is a luxury that Garrett gets to afford right now with some of the injuries and some of the players that are gone.
Yeah, he does. He gets a good look at the players, and he knows his personnel. But the other part about it, aside from mixing and matching, is that we've talked about this before, and the boys know it. We're playing to win. We have a really good team, but we're playing to win. So it's not just having 24 good players, and then we get to add another one in February, but it's having the right pieces. And so we need to make sure we have the right level of grit and the right level of skill. We have really good goaltending. We're strong there. We don't have any holes on the team. But depending how these injuries play out, there's probably, or could very well be, I should say, trades made at times, just to make sure that, we're not the NHL, but you want to get every chance for all the boys to hoist that cup. And so the reality at this level is, unlike, high school, there may be some movement. I don't know that answer, but there could be. Zane is out 25, and, he brings a lot of grit, a ton of grit, and so we miss him. And, we don't know his injury, the extent of it yet, but it could be a little bit longer term, and Drew Roloff's a little bit longer term. And so those are kind of gritty guys, and we need grit on top of our talent. So the good news in terms of luxury is we have the best scouts in the country at any level, in Nico and Chido, working with Garrett. So to the extent we need to find a new piece through the injury or otherwise, we're playing to win. And so we'll find that person and we'll bring him in to be a Bobcat for sure.
That's the other side of that too, is being as deep as we are. There's a little extra luxury when it comes time to make sure that everybody's healthy, because you don't have to you don't have to rush a player back off an injury because you've got a hole in the lineup. That's got to be a nice feeling as well.
Yeah, it is for sure. This weekend, we feel like we'll be able to compete. It's going to be hard. With just, if for no other reason, they get a lot of shifts, which is good, and you're in the flow. But it's a lot of shifts, and if you've done, and you have done, if you've been to Bobcat games, the boys, after the game, it's exhausting. And so they'll play their hearts out and their guts out, and we certainly will be able to compete because of our depth. But we also have to overcome numbers, and we're confident we will. But it's going to take a good job by the trainers and keep them hydrated and well fed and rest. And it's going to be a very interesting weekend that way. But we do have that luxury, if you will, of having the deep team for sure.
All right, Watertown coming in this weekend, and despite the injuries, we're always looking for a good performance out on the ice. But one of the nice things about being at home is the show that's taking place off the ice and around the game. And there's no better home ice advantage than playing at the VFW Arena. And the Bobcats always do a really good job of giving back to the fans and having special things going on. What are the fans looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, we sort of try, Feldy and Cole. We try to put on a pretty good show, and we do put on a pretty good show. Like I've told you before, not braggy about it, but we don't know if there's a better junior show in junior hockey. It's just a little flames and a little this, a little of that. And this weekend, though, Comfort Heating Air, we're giving away 500. They're really nice Bobcat beanies. So best come early. Doors will be open about 6 if you want one of those beanies. They're very, very nice. So first 500 will get that, and then Santa will be there. And who's the guy that sold Christmas? The Grinch guy, they'll be battling each other. So we got the Grinch coming from, in Bismarck, there's a company, a person that does that. So it's going to be a pile of fun. I mean, a ton of fun. And then Saturday night is our annual teddy bear toss. So this is, I feel like I say it all the time, but every time there's a new weekend coming up, it is the funnest weekend. So Christmas weekend is just a ton of fun. You can come dressed up as Mikey will be there as Santa Claus, and you know, the staff will be dressed up, and there'll be candy canes, and it's just going to be a hell of a good time and a great way to bring in, you know, the holidays. So bring your family, bring your dogs, we don't care. Oh, Parks and Rec may not want the dogs. Bring your family. Bring your dogs.
Okay, fine.
And just have a lot of fun.
Always a good time at the VFW Arena when the Bobcats are in town, and this is one of the fun weekends. A lot of great things for the kids, a lot of great opportunities for some family fun, and that's what the Bobcats bring each and every home game. You can catch all the home games and the away games right here on your home of the Bobcats, Super Talk 1270. Tom, always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Merry Christmas to you and all listening. Thank you.
Sounds good, my friend. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
News, talk, and sports for Bismarck Mandan. Super Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken. Joining us in the studio, Rebecca Binstock with the Ethics Commission, and a lot of talk about ethics with what's coming up with the next session. And it's always a conversation because really the Ethics Commission is something newer in North Dakota. And Rebecca, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a background for the Ethics Commission? And then I want to get into why it's important, that educational piece now, because it's about education. I mean, people don't know if they're doing something ethically wrong with the way the statutes, as you've got new legislatures coming in. And we do have a lot of turnover now with term limits. So it's about an educational process. And I want to get into that, but a little background on the Ethics Commission.
Perfect. Well, good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me. So let's talk about the Ethics Commission in general. So the North Dakota Ethics Commission was formed from an initiated measure, right? We had an initiated measure back in 2018. It was on the ballot. The voters passed it. They approved it. It became effective in 2019. Then we had, in 2019, we had 5 commissioners that were appointed. So the individuals who serve on the Ethics Commission are appointed by a consensus agreement, a little bit unique, not majority, consensus agreement of the governor, Senate Majority Leader, and Senate Minority Leader. So we have 5 commissioners that are appointed in 2019, and then they get to start doing their work, right?
So a little background, when the initiated measure fired up, I mean, because it's kind of something you take for granted a little bit. It's like, well, why do we need an ethics commission? Because it's North Dakota. Shouldn't we be ethical to begin with?
We should be ethical to begin with. Yes, absolutely.
But it was, you know, some of it was some of the lobbying pieces, and people were having concerns that, you know, is the legislator, because you got to remember this is back before term limits, and was it a club, or, you know, are we getting the best value? You know, were people doing things that they just don't know about, and that's where the education piece comes in. But you got to have an ethics commission to be able to do that education.
Right. So I think back, if you look before the initiated measure, there was a lot of we don't know. Right?
Yeah.
We don't have,
gray area.
we don't have, and we didn't have information, right? We didn't have a way to disclose stuff. There wasn't a way to process certain complaints or certain issues, right? So there was a lot of, I think, unknown. And then whenever you have unknown, it creates uncertainty and questions, and then you start asking a lot of questions, right? And then you did have things that were popping up in the media that were problems. And so then you can then, people would you know, take those and then run with it, let's say, right? So with the Ethics Commission coming into place, let's fast forward. So what did the voters put it into place? What does it actually do, right?
It's about setting up standards and rules so people, you know, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if you're in politics, if you don't know the rules of the game, then there's an opportunity to blur some lines, whether intentional or not.
Whether intentional or not.
And that is the education piece of the Ethics Commission, because it's here. there's no gray area. You know where the line is and you don't cross it.
Yep. So that is really what the Ethics Commission is all about, right? Is providing that education. So we do have an investigative arm, right, where we can investigate things that come into our office. But primarily what we want to focus on is preventing issues and making sure that people have the information ahead of time so that they can make more ethical, better decisions, right?
Make sure they're educated so that, am I getting a cup of coffee from somebody I shouldn't be getting a cup of coffee?
Right. Or something else. Am I voting on
Yeah.
something that I should be voting on? Is it okay that I take this action, right? And so, before we had the Ethics Commission, and even before recently, the educational component, there was not a lot of education for state public officials, legislators. So as the Ethics Commission really came into its own, we want to talk about and provide educational resources. So that can be done, and we do it through a variety of ways. So the very first thing that we have is we do webinars. We talk about, we have educational sessions that are an hour-long discussion on a topic, okay? So that is one of the first things that we put out. You can listen to those on our website. Those are available to everybody. So the other thing that we've done is we've made information hopefully accessible, meaning that you can access it if you need it.
Well, there's
and that's
kind of three components to this. So, and we're talking about the legislature coming into session now.
Yes, legislature's coming into session.
The legislators being able to go, okay, I have a question, and being able to go and look at those guidelines. But the media as well to know, if you're going to go chase a story down, was something ethical? Is there a violation there or not?
Yep.
And then the public, because it's about the constituents, and having that knowledge as a voter and a constituent and a taxpayer and resident of North Dakota is very valuable too, because I'm a big proponent. People should be doing their homework, and there's some accountability, and you should know what is right and wrong, especially today with social media, because good Lord, something can get off the rails in a hurry, because it's rumor and conjecture and it's not factual and stuff can go in different directions because of social media today. So having the ability to know all the information, and as the Ethics Commission has really turned into an educational resource, I like the direction you guys are going.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of trepidation when the Ethics Commission first was created.
Yeah, they were concerned, a lot of individuals were concerned that it would be this gotcha kind of entity, that it could be politically weaponized, that sort of thing.
Correct.
And that's still, we have to address some of those concerns and some of those issues on the investigation side. But it really comes down to providing information to the stakeholders, like you talked about, the public, the media, public officials, right? And how we do that really comes down to what, especially as we are moving into legislative session, right? That we are pushing forward with that. So, also keep in mind that as we are doing education, so just to kind of give you an idea, so far this fall, right? We are currently in the organizational session, right? Organizational session is here right now. And so we've been doing education specifically with legislators. So that's been our focus for the last few days. Let's give them the information that they need to know, best practices, and let's not do it in a big auditorium, bring them all in. We want to have one-on-one conversations. We want to have small groups. So we've been doing that. We also provide a lot of information to them ahead of time so that they know. And also that quick guidance, right? Informal guidance, like, hey, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? That
where's
is
my crib notes?
Yeah, where's my notes? What do I need to do? So we've tried to create kind of workable things, because they're not legislators, 100% of the time, right? Or they're new. So we try to provide them with those resources.
And as a quote unquote citizen legislature, which I'll debate at times, but you do have people working in the private sector and doing other things, and there is an opportunity, whether intentional or not, for the private side to bleed into the legislative side, and they need to know that.
Yes, yeah. And I think that a lot of individuals who serve in the legislature that have that are aware of that, and that's one of the things that we're talking about. We're
talking with Rebecca Minstock with the North Dakota Ethics Commission. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Supertalk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Rebecca Binstock with the North Dakota Ethics Commission. We're talking about ethics, new session coming in, a lot of new legislators coming in after the first of the year with the session, and a lot to know, a lot to learn for them, for the media, for the public when it comes to ethics. One of the questions I've been asked fairly recently is if somebody were to have an ethics question or think there's a violation, what's the process of who do I report this to? Who do I talk to? Do you just call up the North Dakota Ethics Commission, go, hey, I have a concern. Does this fit the criteria? Is it as simple as that, or what's the process?
Yeah, great question, Steve. You know what? It is as simple as that. So the Ethics Commission can take a complaint in from a North Dakota resident in really any form. It can be a phone call. There is a hotline that people can submit tips through. That number is available on our website. There's also a form, an online form that somebody can submit through our website as well. We've made that pretty user-friendly so that you can attach documents if you need to, submit information. Or if you're not sure, you can just call and ask us. So we have staff available. The Ethics Commission doesn't have jurisdiction or authority over local officials. That's probably one of the questions we get the most frequently.
Yeah, where's the bottom end? Where's the line?
You know, who do you guys investigate, alleged violations against? And so
it's
don't.
State level.
And it's state level. So it is state level. So
okay,
we
but
do have
casting
that.
the net statewide, then that could go into higher education. That could go into legislators. That could be Commerce Department, any state agency, that's under your jurisdiction.
So there's some exceptions. So it's going to be, the definition or the word is public officials, anybody who's a public official. So this is going to be anybody who's elected, right? This is going to be our legislators, our statewide elected individuals, anybody in the executive branch who's appointed. So that's going to include cabinet members and then individuals who serve in the executive branch who are appointed, right? So there's certain individuals such as myself. I'm not in the executive branch. We're in this independent ethics commission, but I am appointed to serve in my role, right? So it also is going to include individuals who serve on the ethics commission. They included themselves within that. They have to follow the rules. And then it's going to include legislative employees. So there are general executive branch employees who are serving in the state. They are going to be excluded. So it is limited to the number of people. Or the individuals. So, but let's say that somebody does have a complaint or a question. They're not quite sure. They can come to us. They can talk to us about it. If they do want to move ahead and file a complaint with the commission, it really is, it's a 3-step process. And it requires us to initially review something once it comes in and say, hey, can we even be looking at this? Is this something?
Step one is you're required to, if somebody has a question, you're required to assess that. Yep. And I can imagine a lot of cases because of lack of education. People go, hey, I think there's something here, a violation. And when you go through it, it's like, that doesn't meet the criteria.
Right. We do a lot of that.
Right. And so, again, up front, diffusing what could have been something that was blown out of proportion and not accurate, because it's about being accurate and having the right information. So
it is, yes. Yeah, so we can do that right away. We can handle things that aren't within our jurisdiction. We can get rid of them pretty quickly. Then we are left with moving toward, so we review it. We say, yep, this is something that the Ethics Commission can look into. No, it's not. If it isn't something the Ethics Commission can look into, there might be another local entity or a county commission, city commission that something should go to. And we do, let people know who come to us.
So getting things to the right place is very important,
Part of it is getting things to the right place. Now, we can't provide them legal advice, but we can certainly say, hey, maybe talk to this person. Let's go there. The second step is trying to informally resolve anything that happens. So we're required under the statute to try to informally resolve. What we have learned over the course of the last 4 years in dealing with this is that is not the easiest process, because you have a complainant who is concerned and may see something that they don't like, and it's hard to get that done. We have been successful on a few occasions, but then at that point, if we can't resolve something, then we move into more of an investigation stage, right? Where we are fact gathering, where we are interviewing people, we're taking depositions, we're moving towards that so then we can create a report. Now, I will tell you that the commission is actually looking to change this process just a little bit to get away from some of the negative connotation, because there is an education component even in that process, that somebody could have done something that they didn't even realize they shouldn't have done really early on, and they would have been able to correct it and say, hey, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have done it. So we're trying to
kind of a remediation process.
Yes, absolutely. We're trying to build in that education into this process. So expect some changes in the coming session for how that process looks in an effort to almost streamline it.
So when you're looking at a complaint coming in, it's first of all, is it a complaint? Mm-hmm. Second of all, is it going in the right place that it needs to go to?
Yep.
And then the third part is, okay, there's something here and there's an investigation that takes place now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's correct.
So what does an investigation look like?
Yep. So an investigation is going to look very similar to a civil case, right? Where we gather documents from places, whether it is private citizens, whether it is other state agencies. We're going to be conducting interviews with people. We're going to be requesting records, those sorts of things, asking questions of people so that we can then get a full picture of what happened. Sometimes that can be pretty short, right? Something happened, very direct, involves few people. Sometimes that's bigger. And so then at the end, as executive director, I produce a report that the commission and the individual who we are, investigating, I don't want to use that kind of negative connotation, but that is in this process, that they are both provided. And so then from there, the commission decides if that is an ethical violation or if it is not an ethical violation.
And, okay, we know what happens if it's not. What happens if it is?
What happens if it is? So there are certain circumstances where there's fines or penalties that are associated with those, and that's laid out. Some of the other things is if there is an ethical violation, the fact that there is an ethical violation, is in fact the consequence, right? That there is now a public finding out there that something shouldn't have happened, right?
And an ethical violation can reach different levels as well. Because it's like, did somebody take a cup of coffee from somebody they shouldn't have, or is it more intensive than that? So I can imagine there's a great big spectrum.
There is. Yeah. So there is a spectrum. And then the other thing is that the commission can actually refer its findings to another state entity once it's done. So if it needs to hand it over to, the Secretary of State to do some auditing, or to a county commissioner, I can't imagine a time when that would come up, but another state entity.
Yeah, it really could.
It could.
Rebecca Binstock, Executive Director of North Dakota Ethics Commission. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app. Don't miss a Hannity show.
I know that there is a segment of society that would love a perpetual shutdown, and I guess we can live in a bubble, but who's going to build the bubble if everybody shuts down?
Weekday afternoons starting at 2 on Super Talk 1270.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drug Store. Joining us on the program, Kevin. And, of course, you brought a guest in, Kevin.
I did. I found another one to drag in. So,
Kicking and screaming. Actually, she beat us here.
She did.
This morning.
Yeah. Well, it's not hard to beat me.
Well, yeah, true. You're semi-retired, kind of, right?
Yeah.
You get to sleep in.
Trying, yeah.
Trying.
Yeah, we have Beth Demke with us this morning. She's the CEO at North Dakota Gateway to Science. I've known Beth for a long time.
Yes.
We go way back, so I thought she'd be a great guest.
You used to be on the board, right?
Yeah, I was a board member for, it was close to 20 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And it was right at the beginning.
At the beginning,
Yep.
Yep.
In fact, we had some water damage, and then we were cleaning out some stuff, and I found a little plaque with the carpet switch on it.
Oh, the orange carpet.
The orange
award.
carpet. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
we talk about that.
Yeah, we were in Gateway Mall, and it had orange carpeting in the little room that we were in. So when we moved out of there, I got an orange carpet award. It was
nice.
It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That would have matched my grandparents' refrigerator.
Yeah.
And
it's probably the ugliest award you could ever receive. I made sure of it.
It really was. But I'm proud to have it.
Bright blue plaque with a puce word or plaque on it that said, all it said was Gateway to Science Orange Carpet Award with a swatch of that ugly orange carpet. And the idea was that
was it shag?
Pretty close. And the idea was that you would hang it on your wall, and if someone asked you about it, then you got to tell the story of Gateway to Science and how we got started. And that's part of what we wanted to talk about today.
Right.
Because we're celebrating 30 years.
Wow.
We opened in 1994. So, and we could start with the reason why we're Gateway to Science, which is not because we opened at Gateway Mall. And a lot of people think that that's why we were named Gateway to Science. But our founding scientist, Frank Cook, who was a chemistry professor at Bismarck State College, had the idea of a gateway to science. And if you think about an opening, a welcoming place where everyone would think that science is easy to understand and accessible, that was Frank's vision.
Yeah.
So a gateway to science. And then he went to Gateway Mall, and the manager there offered us some free space. It was the old Kinney shoe store with the orange carpet. Still had the K on the wall at the time. And, that was how we began. But even before that, Frank started with National Chemistry Week. He would have his students from the college come to Center Court, and they were expected, each of them planned a hands-on activity, and they would present these activities for families to come in. That was sort of our first prototype.
Well, and think about that back 30 years and previous as he's formulating this idea is percolating in his head. And you take a look at where we are now, and okay, you pop on Saturday morning and there's a science show or there's this and this. Like, he was ahead of his time.
Very much so.
Very much so, which kind of brings us full circle because Gateway to Science, national notoriety at this point. The facilities are amazing. We'll talk about that. But Frank was really ahead of his time with his vision.
Yes. And we were the first, still are the only true hands-on science center in the state. So you think back to 1994, there was nothing like this in our entire state. And so for Frank to bring that idea...
STEM was just in the schools.
Yeah, and we didn't call it STEM.
No.
We just called it science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way before his time.
Yeah.
But my first recollection was the Saturday programming, and you would invite people in to present things within the Science Center, not in the court. And Beth asked me as a compounding pharmacist, because we were early in that endeavor, to come in and explain what that was like, bring some of my equipment.
There's science involved with
There's science involved in that. Yep. Wow. I remember I brought some capsule machines, and we showed kids how we made capsules.
Making medicine, I think, is what you called it.
Making medicine is what we called it. Yep.
Yeah, talked about all the science behind pharmacy.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We got in a little trouble with making with medicine with one of the moms because she was upset that we were teaching kids how to make drugs.
Well, it's not like you were teaching them how to make meth back then.
No. But what was interesting, my daughter was actually in that class. She was pretty young. I think she was probably kindergartner, first grade, something like that. And I remember when she was in probably around Easter time, if I was a bunny, I would be she chose a pharmacist.
Wow.
Because of that experience. So even way back then, we were exposing students to possible career options, and that stuck with her.
So today you think about, the big conversation with CTEs and what that work experience and getting kids engaged and, the recruitment, because you talk to higher ed and they're like, no, we got to talk to kids in middle school, sometimes elementary school. That's where Gateway to Science comes in, because it's that, here's this taste of the different STEM programs, different parts of academia, science, career paths, potential opportunities. And that's really where kids start to get engaged, is that kindergarten, early elementary, into elementary. People were missing out on how early you had to engage a child.
Right.
Exactly. It's all part of the pathway.
Yes.
It's part of the pathway. And, I've got one of our donors talks about how we get kids excited about sports. And it's really no different when you want to get them excited about STEM. You want a kid to get excited about hockey. When do you put them in their first skates? Do you wait till they're in high school? No. At 2 up to 4, they're in skates. You take them to the local pond.
I have friends in Grand Forks in northern Minnesota that their kids are skating before they could walk.
They're in Pee-wee leagues. You take them to games. You take them to great facilities. You build hockey rinks for these young teams.
You take them to Gateway to Science to teach them how ice is made?
Yeah.
We could, yeah.
All of
There's
those
a science
things,
to making ice.
All of those things are important to just introduce those ideas. You can't be what you can't see. And so we do the same thing with kids with STEM. And we're just part of the pathway. We're not going to create scientists completely at the Science Center, but we're part of that pathway. We're going to kind of spark that interest.
So that was my question. It's more about getting the kids at that even kindergarten, young level, to start thinking on their own and asking themselves the right questions, because piquing that curiosity in a child is probably the biggest gift you can give them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also for their parents and caregivers, for them to understand that they don't have to have all the answers, but they can help to create that curiosity and help them to find the answers. There's a difference in saying, okay, I know the answer to all of that, than to say, well, let's find out. Let's discover this together.
Well, my educational experience changed because I remember very cognitively in 6th grade, my school district went from rote to critical thinking and teaching a child how to think and how to find their answers themselves. For me, that was light bulb went on at that point. And my educational path completely changed. And that's what we're seeing with these kids, engaging them at such a young age. We're talking with Beth Demke, CEO of North Dakota Gateway to Science, also Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore, along with Beth Demke, CEO of North Dakota Gateway to Science. We're talking about the early years. And Kev, you were around for a lot of those.
I was. I don't remember when I started.
Because it was so long ago.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry.
It was a long time ago. I don't even remember what year I would have started.
I should have looked it up, but I think it was, well, we opened in 94. You were on the board at least by 95 or 96.
Yeah, it wasn't long after I did some of the Making Medicine Saturday morning things that I was invited to be on the board. And I was thrilled to do it. It was a very interesting time. We were just talking during the break.
Well, it was new and it's just like, this is really cool for kids.
Yeah, and, Beth and I were just talking during the break how a big focus of the board at that time, and it was a small board, was the outreach. Kids were coming into the Science Center, local kids. We were having Saturday morning programming, but there was a need, and people were reaching out to us from rural communities looking for help with their science that they were presenting in their schools because they really didn't have the tools. And the Science Center got very, very skilled at putting together what we called kits of different types of science presentations, and schools would use those for a week or two within their classroom. Beth was and I wasn't even aware of this, how the kits would get to these schools. It's kind of an amazing story.
Yeah, we would ship them certainly sometimes, and the teachers might come and get them, but there were times when we would send them with the football team, or I would know an engineering group that was going to a different community because, we worked with a lot of engineers, and I would just say, do you have anyone going that way? and we'd pop the trunk into their pickup truck or on the bus with the football team, and off it would go, and then the teacher would send it back after a week or two. We had to be creative. You talked about creative thinking and critical thinking. We were doing that way back then too, just to get our things where they needed to go.
So we think today, Gateway to Science across the entire state of North Dakota, around the region, and I talked a little bit about recognition across the entire country with the programming, but out of the gate, was that the thought that we're going to reach out to a lot of these rural communities?
Absolutely.
Or did they reach out to you and go, hey, that's really cool, how do we get some of that here?
It kind of both ways, but from the beginning we knew we would serve the entire state. We knew that because Frank had lots of connections with rural communities through the students that he was serving. So he knew what was coming into the college from those students. He knew that the need was out there in those rural communities.
Well, I don't want to call it a deficit, but he knew the disadvantages from a science perspective that those small districts dealt with.
Yeah, and I would call it a disadvantage. A lot of those rural areas didn't have the equipment. They didn't have the resources that some of the larger districts had, and we really filled the gap, and we continue to do that.
Today, what's that look like?
Well, today it looks like we send STEM zones, we call them. They kind of look like a carnival. It'll be a van. We have 2 vans now, so they go all over the state, and we'll send out. It's called STEM Zone. Looks like a carnival. Lots of different STEM activities. We'll fill the gym, and they'll have a big event. Sometimes it happens during the school day, and it'll be all the kids in the school. Sometimes it's an evening event, and the parents. We will shut the town down, and everyone comes, whether you've got kids or not, because that's what's going on in the town.
It's kind of like science on a stick.
Science on a stick. Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I can get into that.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is, there's new things going on, like computer science. We're the only state in the country that requires computer science from kindergarten through, it's basically K through 20. Every grade level is supposed to have computer science. The larger districts are doing a pretty good job of that. The rural districts struggle. So a lot of them are calling on us. We create workshops. We make sure that we're helping those rural school districts. And AI, artificial intelligence. It's a big deal.
Well, and that's changing so fast.
It is.
Which, the school districts take a little bit of time to ramp up to stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that where the nimbleness of Gateway to Science comes in and goes,
hey, we've got that expertise. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can fill gaps.
And we can call on our national partners like AI-EDU and Google and there are several others, TIES, the Teaching Institute for Excellence in STEM. They've called on us to help. We just did an AI education summit up in Newtown for teachers. We did all kinds of things like that to prepare ourselves so that we can serve that rural community. And that's a big part of what we can do to help serve the rest of the state.
When you're looking at the computer science side of stuff mm-hmm. and how fast that changes, and especially the AI, which Marlo Anderson and I do the Tech Ranch, and every week we talk about something new and how fast it's moving with AI. Does that put Gateway to Science, because you've stepped into the void, but how cognizant of the fact that it's changing so fast do you have to be? Because that takes a lot of time and effort to be able to step in there for those school districts and for mm-hmm. the kids when you've got such a fast-moving technology. What's that look like from a programming perspective?
Well, it is a challenge, but some of that is just that spark of passion that we have within our staff. We've got people that love doing this sort of thing, and so we've got folks that are very, I would say, they've got an expertise in AI, so they stay on top of it, mostly because it's an interest of theirs. We make sure that we've got professional development that continues with that. They keep in touch with our national partners, and they know what's going on. Like you say, it's a fast-moving subject area. So
how important are the national partners? Because again, I brought up the national recognition that Gateway to Science here in Bismarck has, and that's important both directions.
It is, absolutely. Well, and we've been called on by folks like the Franklin Institute. We've been in partnership with them in Philadelphia for many years. They just called on us again to do a completely new program that brings more math into our programs and helps them to develop even what that program is going to look like, because they got a grant. So our reputation precedes us. It's really quite exciting to see that. And a lot of it is because of the team members that we've added that have that passion first and then and expertise second. You know, to me, passion is first. You've got to have an interest in it, and then you continue to build your own knowledge base.
Although I'm still trying to figure out where in the world I will ever use the quadratic equation in my life. But different discussion for a different day. We're talking with Beth Demke, CEO of Gateway to Science, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore on Super Talk 1270.
Yes. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachman, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore, and Beth Demke, CEO of Gateway to Science here in Bismarck, that really pretty new building up on top of the hill, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But we're talking about the outreach, and Kev, you brought up a great point during the break. There's a difference between the outreach around the country and what the mission of Gateway to Science still is right here.
Right.
And it's not just kids.
Yeah. And it's been so long since I've been involved in the board. I'm just asking Beth about...
You're kind of retired now, right?
Yeah. Just asking... Steve's trying to find me a job.
No, I'm trying to help your wife. That's what I'm doing.
So the outreach that we've discussed, and, you know, Van taking stuff and the kits that we originally started to do, but I'm sure there's outreach within the building, you know, programming for somebody like me to come in during the day sometime, or an afternoon or an evening, to learn about something that I may not know about. You know, we look at some of the BSc programming, the culinary classes create some interest for us, and I'm sure that there's outreach programs like that at Gateway to Science. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, of course we do things for the kids from, you know, preschool discovery hour all the way to you know, after school clubs and coding clubs and that type of thing. But we're also doing adult programming. We have family events. One of our adult programming pieces that's coming up is wine, art, and AI. We were just talking about AI. And we're actually putting that into a fun program to help explain to people how artificial intelligence can be used in a fun way, but also what is it? And so we're bringing in an artist and using the AI to create art in an evening setting with adults. That's on December 7th.
I don't think AI could even AI, I don't think could keep me in the lines. But my wife's come to the wine art things before with her friends, and now layering that AI piece onto that's fascinating.
Well, that's what we thought it might be an interesting combination, because in some cases, people are afraid of artificial intelligence, and I can understand why that might be. But I think anytime you understand things better, it takes away the fear and helps you to know how to deal with different things.
Well, and for a lot of people, I think with AI, they don't know all the applications. And the applications are limitless. I mean, I'm thinking back, and we're all a little bit older, and I'm thinking back to when I went through school, because my first introduction to a computer was, hey, we drew this geodesic green line tank on the monitor for making a video game, and that was in 5th grade. And now kids growing up are only going to know computers with AI. That's just part of the fabric now. And what the possibilities are that opens up for that generation coming up, mastering that, to me is just a little exciting to be a kid.
Yeah.
So looking at the program you're talking about with the wine and AI, art.
You had Kev at wine, by the way.
Yeah. Is there a part of that that's really the introduction to AI as a whole?
Yes.
Because you may have somebody totally novice about it, and
exactly.
they're just interested in the AI part of it.
So starting with what is AI,
right.
and now we're gonna show you an one application for it.
Right.
And that's sort of how our adult programming is evolving, is learning about something kind of new and cutting edge, and then applying it to something else. But we're also going to do some other fun things like, Legos and just, things that maybe as an adult you don't usually get a chance to just play with.
Yeah.
So, look ahead. We'll be about once a month. We're going to be doing some just plain adult programming.
Well, so anybody interested in the wine one, the wine and art and AI, that's coming up, December
7th? You're welcome to sign up.
I'm guessing
it's on
those
our
probably
website.
fill up pretty quick.
Yes.
So what's the website? Just so if anybody's interested.
GatewayToScience.org.
Perfect. Check out the class.
Yeah.
Sign up for it.
So what you're telling me is we shouldn't have shipped all our Legos that we had to our grandson. We should have kept them.
Grandsons are well. You should always share with your grandson. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Although if you kept the Legos, then that's an excuse for your grandson to come visit you.
There you go.
To play with the Legos.
Yeah.
Oh no, we shipped a large box of Connects and Legos.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
From your childhood? Did you have
No, they weren't mine. They were
from your kids.
They were the kids'.
Okay.
Yeah. But, within the building that we have now, we have so many opportunities to be able to do programming. We have a lab named after Frank Cook, which is fabulous. So we can actually do things like dissections, and we can do different types of coding clubs we have going on, and we can do coding for adults as well as kids. One of the things we're finding is that as the parents bring their kids to clubs or camps or different types of programming, they're as curious as the kids are. So we're trying to find ways that we can create these adult programs or family programs that would bring them together to learn.
Has there been a shift, though, because you and I have talked about the camps in the past, but has there been a shift to, more of the, how do we program something for the entire family so that it can be a family event? Because kids and parents and everybody's so busy, and there's been a little bit of a disconnect where it's like, kids are on technology all the time and parents are busy, and it used to be the dining room table, and it's not anymore.
That's
getting that family opportunity to do things as a family together. I'm guessing there's a lot of thought process that goes into trying to find that type of programming.
You're absolutely right, Steve. And we try to make sure that when we create those programs, we have multiple ages in mind, because families come together and they have preschool kids, but they might also have older kids. And how do you make sure that all of those ages are kept engaged? And our team is fabulous at finding those types of activities. It's
kind of the reason I asked about the programming and the baseline knowledge. Look at a population like us. Kids are gone; they don't live here. There's a large population of people that are our age who've maybe they don't work anymore. They've lost their focus. They need that. They need that intelligent stimulation.
Yes.
And programming for that age group, I think, would be just a fabulous outlet for the aging population. And, we're the city's such a destination point for the retirement age. I think that's just a really, really cool opportunity for people like us.
Yeah. And we also work with some of the assisted living places to do programming like during the daytime for retired folks or, people that
and if you think about during the
daytime.
the programming, that's the sweet spot for, somebody in assisted living or some of the nursing home setting or long-term care facilities. That's kind of your downtime unless you got a classroom that's coming in. So you get the kids on the weekend programming, you get the school students coming through during the day occasionally, but there's a lot of downtime at the facility until after school programming kicks in. And so it's, you get the kids, you get the families, and then people are busy, and then seniors, it's just, now it's all the way. Yeah. There's a place for Gateway to Science in everybody's life. I kind of like that.
I agree with you.
We're talking with Kevin Oberland at Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. We're talking with Beth Demke, CEO of Gateway to Science here in Bismarck. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270 on Steve Bach along with Kevin Oberland at Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. And we're talking with Beth Demke, CEO at North Dakota Gateway to Science. I want to talk about the new building because if anybody has not been through that yet, unbelievable space, especially coming from where you were, which you were bursting at the seams.
We were.
To now having room. So it takes a little while. You've been in the building for a little bit now, a couple of years. It takes a while to kind of work out the logistics of a new facility and get comfortable, get settled. And what's that been like?
Well, it's been awesome, honestly. It's, a little challenging occasionally just to, get settled and figure out where everything needs to be. And we had never run a building before. We'd always rented. So, understanding just how the process of the building works. But
how long did it take you to not get lost looking for your office?
Oh, I knew exactly where my office was. You know what's funny, Steve? We have a gorgeous view. If you haven't been there, as Steve said, you need to come. It's awesome.
One of the top 3 views in Bismarck.
I would say it's the top view in Bismarck. I'm just going to argue with you about that.
BSC will argue with you, and you, Mary, will argue with you. But
they can argue all they want. But people would say to me, of course, your office will get the view. Well, no, my office is at the back of the building. The view is for the public. This is a public facility.
Well, it's actually the front of the building.
The front of the building.
The back of the building is
the back of the building gets the view.
Yeah.
But my office is easy to find. But
great view of the parking lot.
Great view of the driveway. But I'm not in my office much unless I'm working on something, but what's really important is that we're there for the public, we're there for the families, and we're there a lot. We're open 6 days a week, and, weekends, we're open late on Thursdays now, early on Wednesdays. It's important that we're there so that families can explore together. And we've learned an awful lot about how that building operates, and it's a fabulous facility. It has served us very well in the fact that we can host so many things at the same time. We'll have meetings going on for different groups. We've hosted weddings there. We've hosted graduation parties, science fairs, robotic tournaments. Our own fundraiser is coming up in two days. Einstein on Wine is on Friday night. There's all kinds of things that can happen in that building while at the same time teaching science and teaching all kinds of STEM and having our exhibits going. And it's a really awesome facility. And in the future, and we're already looking ahead, we're building outside. We've got an we call it Outdoor Explorium. It started out calling it an outdoor classroom, but it's really not a classroom in that sense. There's a greenhouse and a shed and then some pathways. There will be a mini excavator that Bobcat is retrofitting for us, where kids are going to actually get to to dig in a gravel pit, and it's completely handicap accessible. So someone can even roll up with a wheelchair and operate this thing. It's going to be awesome. That'll open next spring. So that's in the works. You can see the greenhouse and the shed now. And then we're already talking about expanding the building because while it's serving us well, we're still growing. We're serving 100,000 people in there every year.
And technology moving forward with robotics and everything, which brings up a great point. Because you guys are on basically the edge of the BSC campus. Partnership with them because they've got some great new facilities coming with drones and robotics and AI and stuff. That's got to be a really good partnership going forward.
We've always had a fabulous partnership with BSC, and that dates back to when Frank started. But yes, all of those things are wonderful for us and for their students, and to be able to bring younger students onto that campus and introduce them to some of those activities and technologies early on, and say, oh, and by the way, just down the road, there's a facility that you could attend when you're older, is awesome.
Cool stuff, Kev.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's been way too long for me. It's been so long since I've been involved. I've learned a lot this morning, so this has been a real pleasure.
Well, this is the first time I've heard about, okay, we're already growing out of the big, beautiful new building, and we're thinking about expanding, but that just shows the engagement not only of the community, but around the state and around the region and nationwide, and it shows the need in education for programs like this and facilities like this.
But it shows the foresight of people like Frank, the vision that he had and where it's come. I think it's just an amazing thing for our community and our state. And it is really a state facility.
It is. Frank had an awesome vision that was the seed, and every person, every team member that we added, and you're one of those people, Kevin, grew that vision. Frank started it, but then we just continued to add to it. So that's why we are where we are now, and where we'll continue to grow is because of the seed of that vision, but also because of the addition of everybody else that added to it. Everyone that walks in that door, everyone that we serve around the state, those on the board, and your help too, Steve, to help us to spread the word about that vision, because it's an important thing that we're doing here.
My question is, are there any rooms with orange carpeting?
No. I don't think there's orange in that building anywhere.
If there's an expansion any time in the future, there's got to be one room with orange carpeting.
With orange carpet.
Or at least a corner.
A little corner, man, little kids area or something with orange. Okay, so future's looking great. Programming's great. You got a lot of things for kids, families. Of course, we'll have you on later in the spring when we talk about the camps that are coming up, because the summer programming is absolutely phenomenal. There are so many other things out there. You've got your fundraiser coming up. You've got different programs, the wine for adults with the art and the AI, different kids programs, weekend, Saturday programming, opportunities for outreach and kids. There's so much going on. Website. Because that is the best place to find out what is going on at Gateway to Science.
Gatewaytoscience.org. And then, of course, you can follow us on our social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Twitter, all of those places as well.
I still got to get over and get the full tour. I haven't done
that.
I know.
As I said, I'm there most of the time. So come join me.
Beth Demke, CEO, Gateway to Science. All right, I'll give you. It's the best view in Bismarck, right?
For today, give me that.
Okay, I'll give you that today.
Okay, thank you.
We got great view sheds in Bismarck.
We do.
Well, the argument always is, what's the best view of Mandan from Bismarck? Gateway to Science. Check out it on the website. Check out the social media. So much going on out there, and it's not just for kids anymore. That's kind of the cool part of where this vision has gone into. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, weekday morning starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.